Republican presidential candidate Rick Perry, he's been under fire recently for calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme. But according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were nearly 2 full-time private sector workers for every 1 person getting Social Security benefits. Actually, less than that, 1.75. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Al Lewis is a columnist for Dow Jones Newswires in Denver. Gretchen Hamel is the executive director of Public Notice in D.C., and Dunstan Pryl is a Fox Business senior reporter. Gretchen, let's start with you. What do you make of this idea?
Well, you have 18% of Americans that are actually on Social Security, and you have more people joining it and less people actually working. So, of course, that's unsustainable, and it's a problem.
Right, exactly. Dunstan, do you fix it or do you nix it? I mean, the real question here, I think, for Perry is, okay, you don't like the way it's set up. Nobody does, but what do you do about it?
You've got to fix it. It's one of these entitlement programs. It's not going away, and it's really not hard to fix it. You raise the eligibility age, and you dim the benefits. The problem is that's not going to get done, as we know in Washington, D.C., until the very last minute and until every politician in America has had his say in it.
Well, that could take a long time. I don't want to wait for that. Al, what do you have to say?
Well, you know, I've heard that Social Security was a Ponzi scheme almost all my life. The fact that Rick Perry is getting so much guff for saying that is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
It fits most definitions of a Ponzi scheme except one, which is that it's run by the federal government. And, you know, the federal government in itself is kind of a Ponzi scheme when you look at how much they spend versus how much they take in. So I don't know how it advances the argument to say it's a Ponzi scheme. But Dustin's right. There has to be amendments to this thing, and it has to come in the next 5-7 years.
And you know, with the government, it's also the promises of performance, right? That's part of the Ponzi scheme too. We're gonna do great things for you. All right.
Maybe not.
The number of defaulters on federal student loans has jumped sharply in the last year. The rate rose to nearly 9% from 7% in 2008. And it is the latest indication rising tuition costs and poor job prospects are leading grads to drown in debt. Al, what do you say about this?
Well, this should be no surprise. Grads are getting out of school. They can't find jobs. How are they supposed to pay their college loans? The other thing that's going on here is the for-profit school business has a lot of really bad players in it, Jerry. They're running these little boiler rooms where they suck people into their schools, sign them up for student loans, and, you know, they drop out after 1 or 2 years. And the default rates on these schools are enormous, and nobody wants to do anything about it. It's just kind of like the same kind of loose lending standards we saw with housing, and it's going on with student loans.
Dunstan?
You know, it's not that I'm not empathetic to these students because it is tough to find a job. It's tough to pay these back, and student tuitions are just outrageous now. But what scares me a little bit is it's sort of it's indicative of a general feeling in America right now where maybe you don't have to pay your debts back. And we see that in housing, and we see it in credit cards, and now we're seeing it in the student loan area, and it's a little scary to me.
Boy, somebody's getting taken to the hospital right now, I think. Did you hear that? Okay. Gretchen, what do you say? I actually think Dunstan makes a great point here, that this is just indicative of a bigger problem with debt in this country.
Exactly. This is a domino effect that our economy is having, that you have unemployment rate amongst 20 to 24-year-olds at 14.5%. If you don't have a job, you can't pay a loan. But also, I think there is that kind of issue that we have with people not owning up to their debts like they used to.
And I think that students are willing to take on any amount of debt in this country, which is probably not the right thing to do. All right, here's a story you've got to hear. Recapture his glory days. Hugh Hefner's magazine Playboy will have a 1961 theme issue in October that will sell for just 60 cents. That's the newsstand price from 50 years ago. Dunstan?
Have these people not heard of the Internet? I'm told, I can't speak to this issue myself, but I'm told that if you go to the Internet, there are lots of pictures of scantily clad women that you can look at for nothing. So 60 cents, $6, whatever the price tag, other people I know are probably not going to be willing to pay that. I wouldn't personally.
Al, is Dunstan right? Are there lots of pictures on the Internet of scantily clad women?
I've heard that too. You know, Playboy magazine has really gone the way of the phone book here. 60 cents is a lot of money for something that if you leave it on a coffee table in a room full of pre-adolescent boys, they won't even look at it anymore.
True. It's absolutely. Gretchen, though, wasn't there a Playgirl at one point? And why isn't the price of Playgirl discounted? If you're worried about, you know, getting consumers back in the game here, after all, fair treatment.
How would I know there was was a playgirl. I have no idea. But, call me sexist, call me degrading, call me whatever, but hot girls sell, and there are economic and other activities that are driven by them.
All right, and I guess that Hugh Hefner is just going to get a piece of the action, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Al, Gretchen, and Dustin. Great job. Great to talk with you.
Thank
We'll be
you.
right back with my 2 cents.